Welcome to another Bandology interview. Bandology is a Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucas Redwood, and I am the Outreach Manager for Bandology. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Eugene Draw. How are you doing today, Eugene?
I'm doing wonderful, completely splendid, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today. Eugene is an electric violinist and has performed alongside many successful artists, including John Legend, Mariah Carey, and more. So, Eugene, can you start by describing what an electric violin is? Because I'm very curious to know, and how you discovered it.
Well, there's two different types of electric violins. There's the full-bodied, just basically like an electric guitar, violin version of an electric guitar, which is just a piece of wood with strings on it with pickups. And there's another one, which is an acoustic instrument with a pickup on it. So it's kind of like a hybrid. I started with the one which was basically a piece of wood with strings on it. And I discovered it accidentally walking through a music store while they were playing a VHS. This is how long ago this was, like mid-90s, playing a VHS of some dude doing a presentation on these Zetas electric violins. And I was like 14 or 15 years old. And I'm like, I want that. And I saved up enough money and bought it.
Can you describe a bit about your background in music?
Well, my background in music I started playing quite late in comparison to when usually violinists start. Violinists usually start at 3 or 4 years old with torturous practice sessions and Suzuki and whatnot, which is like a form of early childhood education for music. But I started at the age of 10 and a half, 11, and it was basically a product of immigration. As my parents were trying to find a suitable country for them to raise me. So in Israel, I actually picked up the violin and became a busker right away, moved to Canada, and through the school system, the teachers thought I had some sort of potential, some sort of talent in it. So they put a bit of energy into me, a few private lessons, and then I just ended up becoming a busker at the age of 13, 14, full-time busker pretty much.
That's awesome. Busking is really cool and something I've wanted to get more into. Do you find, have you been busking and as you were growing up in Toronto area mainly?
Did Toronto, did Montreal, and I used to have this thing when after post my busking days, I still play in the town that I would be in for a tour. Just to feel the energy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's like weird experience, but a lot of people now, it's become a big thing in Canada. Like there's a lot of buskers. Back in the day, it wasn't as widely kind of like perceived as a prestigious thing for musicians to do. So when I was in conservatory, the teachers were like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this in the street. You shouldn't." But I'm like, well, how am I supposed to pay for these ridiculously expensive lessons?
Exactly.
And I've learned so much more from the streets than I have in class. Hence the ability to perform in front of a variety of crowds, being able to channel people's energies as they walk by you, being able to deal and diffuse like stressful situations, also patience and just the ability of being vulnerable while you're performing in a very you're basically, a lot of your boundaries are being pushed. A lot of your comfort zones is basically depleted. Anyways, yeah, so I totally recommend it to pretty much everybody, no matter where you are in life. Go and play on the street, because you get paid to practice and you get to also meet really interesting people. Serendipity I think is the key factor in this career. And like, you never know who he's going to meet, and that person could really enhance your journey in life.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so do you find you have to fill out, or what's the process that your journey, like how you got started busking? Is there a particular, I don't know, difference between now and how you did it, or did you do it through permits, or how do people have to do it?
Well, I did it without permits at first, but then when the streets were kind of implemented, the permits in Toronto for busking were partly kind of, I'm responsible for them a little bit, because there's just a lot of people were coming in, and I don't know, I think there's this one street artist who was, I remember him getting really frustrated how, especially not with the musicians, but more like street artists or the painting. He's like, we need some sort of, make this legal, make this an actual profession where you have to go get a permit. So it will weed out a lot of people who just want to pop on the street and try to, and then, I mean, it has its pluses and its minuses. And the first time I went to get the permit, it was like $15. And it's like, but then I think it costs the government, local government, more money to have people walk around, check the permits than how much permits were sold that year. That was like 96, 97, whatever, like the mid 90s. But there's a lot of places where you weren't allowed to perform. You're like, there's weird laws in the cities, property laws that restrict you. And then I found back then, my idea of busking is I'm a very different busker than a lot of buskers. Buskers tend to find melodies that would attract the audience by something that they know, that the people would know.
Yeah.
I did the complete opposite. I would play exactly nothing. Nobody would know anything I would be performing. I would literally just improvise and compose on the spot. And that's also like gave me a bit of an advantage that time, is that it automatically attracted more artsier people that would book me for artsier events. So I wasn't playing at just weddings and bar mitzvahs, which are great for musicians, but I read right away, I had my niche. You build your own niche when you're doing something original. And that's like the big issue that I have with artist development. Like, you need to have both. I find you need to have having a bit of familiar pieces and your own. And there's only a few buskers are actually doing that really well. Everybody else is just regurgitating pop, which I'm like so sick of hearing.
Yeah.
And it's like, or jazz bands that just play like 5 standards nonstop. And I'm just like, come on, like, just do something crazy. Like, it was so funny. Sorry, totally off topic. I was just in Europe last week, and there was I stumbled upon Free Jazz Festival. And in this gallery, and like right away, it was outside. It was this beautiful amphitheater in this gallery space. And right away, I was just like, okay, that's the jazz I like. Like, that's what I would gravitate to. If I'm hearing like any standards again, I'm like, I'm out. I'm bored. I'm like right away bored. I've heard so much, like, put your jazz school back to where, anyways. I'm like, it's like, impress me. I want to be impressed. If I'm on the street, I'm not there to be like entertained. I'm there to be impressed. It's like, it's like, so it's so pretentious, but it's true. But so it's like, I'm hearing these crazy jazz stuff, and it's like, and it's still like atonal, but it makes perfect sense. And like, it's not just me. There's a bunch of people who are like all just like flies. Like, I mean, it's like, this just tickles your brain in the best of ways. Anyway, so yeah, that's my little
I like that. That's awesome. What would you say your experience was like performing along some of the artists I mentioned earlier, in particular, maybe John Legend or Mariah Carey?
Well, that show was in New York, of opening of the Westfield Center, I think. It was the 9/11 Memorial Mall, beautiful. Like, it's got this, anyways, like, people should look it up. It's pretty crazy. So I did the opening set for that day, and it was pretty impressive. The most impressive thing about that day, there was this kid that won America's Got Talent, or some singing TV competition. I remember he was, and he was a gospel singer from the South. Somebody should look this up. I should actually just remember his name. And he was just like this like regular dude, like totally not like performer, not chiseled, and like everybody else has just got their like makeup and everything. This dude just goes on and performs with it's the Harlem anyways, so they're like New York gospel choir.
Yeah.
And this kid from the South, the way that he was like controlling this choir and what he was bringing out of them, like he was a real gospel singer from the South. And it was like, my mind was blown. That was the most impressive thing I've seen in the longest time. That type of artistry where one individual becomes a whole ensemble. And then, that experience I'll never forget. I did my sound check, performed. They were doing their rehearsal, and I'm like, I couldn't leave. They're like, oh, you should go back to your hotel and rest. I'm like, no. So like, that was really impressive. My most impressive, I think, From playing with, I think experiencing Seal, opening up for Seal in Hong Kong was pretty dope. That was probably one of my favorite experiences, because he's just like, he's a legend. He's phenomenal. He's like one of my favorite artists of all time. And the way that he just dominated the stage, I think I learned a lot from watching him perform. And I was like 21, 22 at the time.
Oh, wow.
So that was a long time ago.
But I'm 22 now. That's crazy.
But the thing is that, like, it was just fearlessness at that point. Like, I was so full of myself at that age, which you should be, like, in a sense, like just pushing boundaries, saying, like, you know what, I am. Then you can have moments of existential dread and feeling that could all come later. Oh, yeah. But it's just like, then when the world crashes down on you and you're like, oh man, now I have to be humble. But at that point, like, it was fun. It was fun to, like, fast track through things and just throw yourself into crazy situations and say yes to things that necessarily would be really scary for people. Anyways, so that's pretty dope. I hope that answers your question.
That's very cool to hear that insight into Seal, working with him, and opening for him. And that's awesome to see all the things that you've been up to throughout your career, and you'll continue to be up to. Do you have any exciting stuff coming up as a musician?
I do actually. It's like, I had this new single that came out, Romani, which I'm really proud of. I'm pushing it this whole summer, which is more like Euro house track. I kind of went back to my gypsy roots and did the song during the pandemic. Brought in some really cool people. And then during the pandemic, I was just busy collaborating with people that I usually don't generally, like, collaborate with or have to spend time with. So build beautiful relationships. And that's because of just the busyness of working creatively during the pandemic. My band and we have pretty much finished an album. So it recorded the whole thing in 2 days. Now we're listening back, and there's a lot of changes obviously to be made, and some, like, embellishments. And it was so good that all the songs are so intense. Now we need to fill up the album with songs that will balance everything. So it's like, it's not just like every song bang your head against the wall. It's like, we need to bring. So now we're gonna bring some more peaceful transition compositions in. Not filler, but just more something like the glue. Every album needs a bit of a glue. Like, you can't just hit people with what you consider bangers. Instrumental world music bangers. Anyways, if that thing really exists. But so that's basically it. And that album I think is going to do really, really well next year. I think that one's probably I'm going to put it in for the Junos and whatever else we can.
Yeah, that'll be awesome, and good luck to you on that.
Thank you.
You're awesome. So at Bandology, we talk a lot about the value of music education and how it provides so many transferable skills. So my question to you, Eugene, is why is music education important to you?
Well, culture, I think, is also another language through which we live and we breathe. Like, so. And it's hard to, because, like, people need, in order for financial support for musical education institutions or within schools, there's always has to be this aspect of justification, but there shouldn't be an aspect of justification. It should just be. It's always been in our world, like, we've never, like, really, like, whenever things get dark, the only thing that brings us back is the music, the theater, the literature. Like, cultures always are bouncing back from the most depressing aspects of our humanity, from war. There's always post-war. There's always this crazy revival of literature. There's always, like, it's in musically, like, it's the one thing that basically makes us more human, makes us more humble, and brings love back into our dark world. So, and we'll see that happening quite more in the next couple of years. We're going to see so much more art and beautiful contemplative philosophical works come up. And I find that it goes in these, anyway, so I'm totally going away from the question. But going back to education, I just have very strong principles when it comes down to musical education. I think everyone's entitled to it. It shouldn't be a privilege. everyone's entitled to it, no matter what age, your background, anything, or if you show talent or no talent at all. Talent is something that's very subjective, according to whatever musical institutions that people go through. It should be, everybody should basically have access to free musical education. That's my personal belief. And it should be the question, it enhances other aspects of your life. Of course it does. It makes you a more interesting person. It brings you into a totally different dimension that is just not just language and being able to regurgitate whatever pop culture gives you. So if you want to be a deeper human being, you better learn how to play an instrument. Period. Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, that was an awesome answer. Thank you for that. So our last official question of the interview that we like to ask is, do you have any advice for young musicians interested in pursuing a career in music?
I think to be fearless. Don't try to define yourself ever. Be everything. Listen to everything. If some music you don't like, ask yourself why you don't like it. Try to study it, because that might actually open up a different portal in your brain. Be open to everything. World music, try to listen to music that of different cultures, and at first to feel foreign, and then try to love it. Force yourself to enjoy things, because then eventually you'll start to understand the importance of global culture. That is not just anyways. Yeah, so that's one of the things of fearlessness. I think is the most important thing. Be at everything as a young performer. Go to every open mic you can possibly can. Say yes to jamming with everybody. Don't try. This is the most hardest one. Try not to take things personally. There's going to be a lot of people that are not going to like you, but it doesn't matter. Be kind, and someone's always got some sort of reasons to have some sort of beef with you. So never take things personally. That's the biggest thing. Is just to build up that mental callus. Don't let anything shatter your dreams. And then don't listen to those people that are always telling you that, oh, you need to have a regular job. You'll know when you need to have a regular job. Nobody else will have to feel about it. Work as hardest as you possibly can on your craft every day, hours, and then tell your friends how hard you're working, so they'll get inspired to do that as well. So
exactly,
make it contagious.
Yeah, music's just such a when you find that passion and hone it, it's just so awesome, because you really feel like, I probably feel like I don't feel like I ever really work a day in my life, because it's so passionate about it, and it's awesome.
What's your instrument of choice? What do you
drums.
Oh yes, you're a drummer. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, totally. I could see that. Totally see that. That's dope.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you're jazz or rock.
I'm a freelance, so like you're being open, I play everything. So
exactly.
That's jazz, funk, country. I had a country gig last night.
That's wicked.
R&B, pop. Cool. Yeah. So we like to finish off these interviews with a set of fast 5 questions.
Okay.
So are you ready for these?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question 1. What is your favorite movie soundtrack?
Ooh, recently, it'd probably be Last Temptation of Christ.
Nice.
That's a really nice
instrument you wish you played.
Cello and the tabla.
The tabla. That is a cool one. I haven't heard that answer yet, and I really appreciate it. So that is very cool. Dream vacation spot.
Probably would be New Zealand.
New Zealand. Nice. Favorite concert you've attended?
From recently, probably would be like Sister Nancy.
Nice.
That was
cool. And last but not least, hidden talent.
Oh man, what's my hidden talent? Well, I don't think I even have. That's like,
oh, come on.
Gotta have some. You know what I like?
It's a hard question.
I think probably like cooking pasta.
Nice. I love that.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Draw, for taking the time to chat today. This has been great, and we're looking forward to continuing to see the awesome things you're up to.
Thank you, my brother. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.